Right. I like the hat, by the way.
Oh, thanks.
I could
Part
have
of
used mine
my.
this morning. My bed here is like right there. It's compressed. So you have it. I actually like it because it's off to the side, so that's slightly gangsta, just slightly. So
Just a
you're
little bit,
yeah, just a little rogue.
5%.
Yeah, we were. I was talking before about how all of us are going to be basically all of us are going to have be long haired like groupies because we're all gonna not gonna have access to haircuts beyond Sandy, who just does their own hair. So
Okay, wow.
she's way ahead of the game, much more resourceful than we are. Uh,
I'm well prepared.
Yeah, so now we just have to all we're gonna do is just basically like let everything grow out. And it'll be like a Snapchat filter. We'll just basically have this long hair goes down to our shoulder. You
Or
know,
maybe
my
Candy could do some kind of podcast video, something like the art of self haircutting, and
yeah,
then go through the
that'll be
roof.
our that'll be our next episode. How to cut your own hair. Forget
Yeah, I
facilitation.
think
It'll
Remotely.
just be
that's going to be a PSA.
just see all of us going, if you have very thin but thick hair like I do, here's what you do. You take this shaver and you just
Don't you just put a bowl on your head and then just cut
Oh
around
no,
it?
no, no! Don't bring that back. No, don't do it. No. In fact, that would be an interesting challenge. The bowl cut. Everyone goes on their next like team meeting and say who actually does the bowl cut and just snips it all the way across. Some people have their bowl sideways and they'll actually do it like a dome like this. But then it's good for the moment. But then for the rest of the 3 weeks or 4 weeks, they're desperately trying to like grow it back. Everyone's gonna tease them. It's like, you look like a planet today, Ned. What's going on with you? Can you like shave that up and make it round?
There's going to be such a huge boom for hairdressers right after this whole thing lifts that.
or or it could be a business opportunity for people if they want to say like, let me teach you how to cut your own hair for just $20. I will give you a set of videos that will explain everything you need to know about cutting your own hair. Don't let
People are
that
already doing that. I saw some in one of the groups that I'm in. Someone in Berlin is saying, "Okay, just click this link, and your hairdresser is going to show you how to do it yourself."
so so I got a comment from Amir. He says, I have a massive fro at the moment and I gave up. Actually, Amir, you just ought to grow that thing out and see how far you can go with it.
Yeah.
Seriously. That's like it's like Movember with men and growing out their beards. Or it's like people who are in football basically grow out their beards whenever they're playing like sports and hockey. Do the same thing. Just see where it goes. Maybe you want to show him something. Okay, what are you going to show him?
Hey, that's nice.
Oh, really? You're reading online stories about farts. Good. I'm glad we're providing you with a solid education these days. And with that, let's introduce the program. This is Remotely Interesting with Sandy Lamb and myself, Robert Scrobe. This is episode number 12356 with a thumbs
6.
up. And today we're going to be doing a experiment in teaching people how to facilitate online remote facilitation. Now, we aren't expecting someone to come in and we're going to walk them through an actual like doing it. But what we are going to do is give perspective on some best practices, what you would do in your particular situation, and make it more applicable for what you're dealing with. There's a lot of information online right now that basically is like, okay, here's the book you need to look at to get all your facilitation done. Have these top 10 things plastered on your wall or in front of your monitor or on a post-it on your forehead so people can remind you you're doing it right. What we're attempting to do here is do a live session where you have two experts, and there's one here and there's one over there to my Zoom. They're probably indifferent for them. The first I'll point out is Rakesh Kasturi, who's got the gangsta cap over there with the blazer, the white blazer. He is known as the Sprint Doctor. He is the co-founder of the Life Sprint. He has a very extensive background in facilitation, consultancy, pretty much has been in this space for a long time. So I'm really honored he's here. And then there's Mehmet Karakus, who we're viewing right now through a spy cam that the NSA has set up. He is somebody who is an innovation consultant. He's also a founder of many different endeavors that are starting up, one of which I cannot talk about. I have been silenced effectively because there's going to be something coming out that
Stealth mode.
I cannot say what it is, but he's going to make this grand announcement later, and we're all going to pay attention. But for now, just know he's an innovation consultant, and he's probably one of the top 10 in-person facilitators that I've seen work in terms of like getting a crowd together, making sure they understand where they're going. So he has a lot of comprehensive experience of in-person as well as online. So I'm thrilled he's here. And then of course, the thing that brings it all together, the personality of the show, the smarts, obviously, because I don't know where I'm getting mine from, is Sandy Lamb over in Germany. And she's there. Hi, hello. I think I'm
Hello.
displaying so that all four of us are in the same space, right? Nobody's sharing their screen or anything like that. Yeah?
Right. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So at the end, it's probably good to know that Mehmet and Rakesh are basically curating kind of and you can correct me, guys, is it a top 10 kind of list of things that both of you recommend in terms of online facilitation, remote facilitation?
Yeah, so we're basically thinking would make sense at the end of the session to compile like a one pager or like 10 things that you need to absolutely remember when it comes to remote facilitation. So people who are interested, we can give you a shout out and you can find out how you can get that.
Okay. Cool. So let's do this. While we're kind of doing some introductory content and some perspective, if you're currently on Zoom right now and you're viewing all of us talk to one another, there's a feature in Zoom where you can raise your hand. And by raising your hand, what you're effectively going to do is offer yourself to either come on video or just audio and ask either Rakesh or Mehmet a question that's contextual to your situation. So it may be where I'm just starting out with remote facilitation and I've read a lot of like best practices, but what are some things that I can practically do in this situation? The more detail, the better. And we can kind of field those questions as they come in. But to give people a flavor for both who you are and what you do, maybe Rakesh, you can start with kind of a short intro in terms of how you approach remote facilitation, what you're currently active with now, and the kind of questions that you're really good at answering that you'd like to field more than just basically general ones, things that you can specifically help with that you can really give some insight in.
Hey, Robert, again, thanks a lot, guys, for hosting us. This is really good fun. And just to introduce myself, so I work a lot with different teams globally, both in person as well as distributed. So one of the key things that I'm always looking for is to see how can these teams be nudged more towards collaboration, self-organization, and how can they be more healthy, efficient, productive at the same time. So some of the common questions that come up with facilitation is, so one question that I've been hearing a lot the last weeks is how do you generate trust in a virtual setting? Because once you're in the room, you can actually read the room, you can read the participants, but how do you do this virtually? Wicked question. I don't have the definitive answer to that. But what I've seen that really works for me is to be as open and transparent as possible with your participants. Try your best to understand and know your participants, be prepared, and share as much as possible about what's happening. Make sure that participants in the remote facilitation session also have a chance to connect and bond with each other. So keeping this implicit trust that people start with and trying to make sure that it goes a long way. I think that's what it's really all about. And that's very, very important. It's all the more important today now that we are mostly in lockdown.
And if there are types of questions that people want to ask during the session that you would be very keen to answer that you can give some insight to, is there a particular category of types of questions that you'd like to kind of encourage people to ask, or is it pretty much across the board?
Not necessarily. I think you could go like really across the board. More than, I'm not very prescriptive when it comes to facilitations because I feel each facilitator has their own style. They evolve their style over time. And this leaves a definitive stamp on whatever that you're doing. So I would rather look at guidelines, hacks that might be interesting in specific situations. And I'm very happy to share certain things that I follow, and maybe people can build on that.
Okay, fantastic. Mehmet, let's turn to you. So kind of the same thing I'm asking Rakesh. It's like, what would you like to lead with in terms of something that you think would be very beneficial for people in terms of remote facilitation? And if you're also someone that's pretty much going to draw on experience and can answer most questions that come your way, let me know about that, and we don't have to necessarily bracket what's coming in for a specific type of inquiry.
I think what I can in general, also it depends on the question, but also I could help with anything that with regards to familiarization with the environment if someone's new to the digital setup, also working with digital whiteboards, but also the setup of a digital whiteboard to people that are new to such a whiteboard and working with it. So what does it mean? How can they, be familiar step by step on such a tool without it being too overwhelming with the options it could have? Yeah.
Very cool. Okay, and and just for what it goes without saying, but Sandy, I know you have a lot of experience in the virtual space. I mean, you and I talked about this of like at least a month ago, where we were really. It was an interesting observation to see people kind of get into the space and figure out how they work with it and what they do. So I may have highlighted Rakesh and Mehmet, but it goes without saying that you have chops in this space too in terms of virtual facilitation. So if people who are watching right now would have questions for her, I'm sure she would be able to give her perspective. So I don't want to necessarily discount Sandy in this conversation, but I think all three of you
I think they have heard enough of me talking, so.
Come on now, don't
we have
go
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 episodes that they can watch.
Now, to be fair, I've been monopolizing the conversation, so it hasn't been you. You've been fine. You've been trying to go, yes, that's interesting. Oh, that's nice. Just let you keep on talking. Do that.
Hey, that's perfect.
Keep going, Robert. I like it.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So let's get going. Let's see who's been raising their hand here on the attendee side. So we have Jen Sutherland. And Jen, I'm going to just allow you to kind of use your mic and do it that way. If you'd like to come on video, just let me know, and I can go ahead and bring you on video side as well.
Okay, no, voice is fine.
Okay.
Unless you particularly want to see me.
No. It's totally a choice. I am not forcing the issue with anybody here. If you're in full pajama wear, if you've got like things going on in the background where there's construction going or whatever, you stay on audio. It's fine.
Well, on this note, this could be an interesting learning moment too. It's beneficial to have video on in remote facilitation because that's one way of connecting better with people. But yeah, that's again, depending on your convenience for sure.
Yeah, it's not a must.
I'm happy if you turn the video on, and then we can trust each other.
Jen, I trust you no matter what, so you're perfectly fine. So who would you have?
So
we're
Go ahead. Yeah, I guess general question. I'm not sure who would be best placed to answer it. I've been facilitating for a couple of years, obviously in person. I'm new to remote facilitation, so I haven't. I've been co-facilitating a couple of things, but I haven't actually led a remote facilitation myself. And I've got an opportunity to do one with one of the large banks here that I used to work for. It's in the B2B space, which is additionally complex. So banking products, just by their nature, are very financial. They're very technically orientated. The people in the room are so-called experts. They are new to remote work, but they're also new to kind of challenging how we do things. So yeah, big, complex, messy situation. Any advice? And it's going to be a 6-week, kind of 6 to 8 week sprint, working with them through a number of different exercises.
You want to go Rakesh, or shall I? Up to you. Go for it.
Okay. I think we could have like a whole lot of conversations around this. So maybe 2 things that are super helpful. I see a lot of people trying to translate live events one-on-one into virtual events. So people going like, okay, 1 day or 2 day conference, let's package it into 2 days of virtual events. It's a big no-no because people don't have that much energy. They don't have that much of an attention span when you're trying to engage them remotely. So the maximum from my experience I've seen is 60 to 90 minutes, tiny chunks of sessions that you can sort of alternate over a certain number of days even. And that really helps in making sure that people are only working on bite-sized stuff and really being productive also at the same time. So that's definitely one thing I can share. The other thing is over-prepare, over-communicate. What I notice from remote facilitation is that our workloads as facilitators just got doubled, like by default. So you just need to prepare so much more, and you need to be preparing so many more documents that are helping your participants understand things better, or even organizing tech checks or onboarding sessions which make them comfortable with the tool stack or with the virtual environment, whatever that is. All these things go a long way in making the sessions much more comfortable and manageable for the participants. Mehmet, what do you think? Would you like to add to that?
I think if you're totally new to it, then of course it makes sense to have a familiarization with the tool itself to understand what it can do and what it can't do. You can try to approach it a little bit, let's say, with a couple of steps to say, for example, there are different dimensions. There are the people in that, there is a process in it, and there is a technology and tools that come in place. And then the question is, okay, well, you know, what do I need to prepare up front? What happens at the start of a session, during a session, and after a session? Normally, the as-is situation, which is, for example, which is in your situation, the local workshops. And then based on that, how would that translate into the virtual? Where do I have open questions? After trying it out, for example, familiarize myself with a tool, or not only with one tool, but with several tools. And then also doing a dry run, maybe in a situation with people that know you, or in some kind of safe space. Based on that, trying to understand what are the limits. And for example, if I would do a couple of local tools, how could I imagine that could work out in a digital format or in a virtual format without trying to exactly translate it into a virtual format, as Rakesh already mentioned.
I'll also add that for me, it starts with the relationships that people are lacking in terms of like meeting face to face, and people trying to find a connection before you go into process. One of the things I try to promote is that you want to be able to connect with people and see what they're currently dealing with and what their aptitude is with doing online. Granted that your audience is going to be pretty smart in certain areas. They know what they're doing. They wouldn't be in a banking environment if they didn't. I approach it from the perspective of what do you need to know to feel more comfortable and confident with what we are about to do, and how can I set proper expectations? Then, in my experience, it becomes similar to showing them what they need to kind of concentrate on and letting them kind of make mistakes and fumble around, but being available for questions to clarify what they're experiencing. So they may not get it exactly right, but based on your program or what you have in your agenda, you can guide them in a way so that they're doing it on their own. They feel like they're actually, they're in control of their experience. And what you're essentially doing is making sure that they don't go off the guardrails too much. What I think is really important is that beyond that initial human connection that you would have with someone in terms of like getting them to understand what you're about to do, is to have those moments like at the top of the hour, every 2 hours, just to do a kind of a check to see where people are. For things that are serious or that have technical issues, they have a back channel like Slack or chat or what have you. But making sure that you always kind of emphasize the connection you would have with your audience, and then the process will follow after that. So respecting the work culture, respecting the interpersonal relationships that you have in the group that you're going to service. If you can keep that top of mind, things usually work themselves out. Sandy, what kind of thoughts do you have?
Yeah, I also want to add that I think it's very beneficial if you could schedule some kind of one-on-one sessions with your participants, because what I realize is also that when you just ask a general question to the group, like, how are you doing? Everyone normally just give you a thumbs up and they say it's doing awesome. But then when you actually get the chance to talk with the person directly and ask specific questions, you may actually experience that actually they have also difficulty. They may have something that they didn't understand or something. So just to set like one-on-one section and guide them through, probably best if you could even do that before the section and during the section and probably and after the section, just to get some feedback on that as well.
And of all the different perspectives you're getting from all four of us, there's probably one or two of them that resonate the most. Not the saying that the other ones don't count, but maybe it's just because it aligns with your strengths, your natural abilities to do certain things, whether you're a conversationalist, an introvert, an extrovert, what have you. That's usually where I plug the idea of doing a co-facilitator that can handle other things that you may not be concentrating on that may be good at those other aspects, like what Mehmet had mentioned about setting the stage and what Rakesh was saying before. Find someone else that can basically be your partner in this, so that both of you can draw on different types of strengths to really service that client that you're going to be talking with, if it's possible.
I would absolutely second that, Robert. But don't be a lone ranger. Having a co-facilitator is super helpful, because then you can even balance the responsibilities of who's owning the tool stack, or who's probably taking care of the tools while you're facilitating, or vice versa. And this having this sort of co-facilitator, I've reduced it to COFA. So having a COFA, awesome. Go for it.
Yeah,
Jen,
even like when you try to explain exercise, sometimes like people can understand you and some may not. And having two people talking about the same thing but different language in a way actually helps a lot.
And the weird thing is I had that happen with a friend of mine. Her name's Adrian. And I used to say things that I thought I was being comprehensive. And you would get that stare where they're looking past you. They're like going, I want to pay attention to you, but I'm thinking of something else I have to do after the session. And then she starts talking because she's just much more wow. She's much more like kind of like charisma, personality, comprehensive. When you listen, you're supposed to listen. Like it's your mom and she's telling you not to do stuff, but she basically does that same kind of feeling. It's like I second guess myself. It's like, what am I doing? Did I do it right? And you get that perspective, and you just realize that it takes more than one person's strengths to really make it work. So, did that help, Jen, in terms of that feedback and that perspective?
Yeah, especially I think the connections and the one-on-one thing. That one-on-one came out of one of the previous remote workshops. I think remote facilitation #2. And that really kind of rang true with me on that one. So I think the connection and kind of the ongoing connection really is important in this context, because I think, to your point, they're not, because they're so intelligent and clever and stuff, they're not going to admit to not being able to work something as basic as mural.
Yes.
So just to give them that psychological safety, I think, is important. So thank you.
Cool. All right. Thank you very much for that, Jen. All right, people, the Sprint Doctor is in. Mehmet's in the house. Sandy's basically wondering what's going on, like me. If you got questions, if it's something that you want answered for your particular situation, raise that hand in Zoom. You got a little bit more time to get some fresh perspective from 2 people, 3 people, arguably, that really know their stuff. So other than that, if you don't say anything, all 3 of us are going to start talking hair and eating and being in lockdown and all sorts of side stuff. So yeah, please speak up. So Amir, I'm going to go to you next. I'm going to put you on talk, but if you want to go on video, just basically declare that when you come on to speak.
Hey guys. I don't want to show my big throat to anyone right now, so I don't need the camera.
Oh, come on now. Come on. I mean, that would be one for the ages. I know you originally got A, but okay. Come on.
How do I turn my camera on? Fine.
All right, I got to put you on as a panelist. You can't put that out there and say I really don't want to show my hair. Now I'm just thinking it's this. Now I think it's like it's going beyond the edges of the screen.
All right. It's not that big. It's not.
I promoted you as a panelist, so let's see if it actually goes, because sometimes you may have to see it on your side when you see the promotion come in. Yeah, Andy Davis says, got to see the fro, yeah. So you gotta bring it in. Is it working? Do you see any kind of update, like thing on your side?
No, I don't see. Oh, no.
All right, wait a minute. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna mute your microphone or disable your talking, but I'm gonna try to promote you again. Hang on a second. Let's try doing it like this.
I think now it worked because he's gone.
All right, now it says, well, we're joining the webinar as a panelist. So let's see if this actually works. And he disappeared. Oh, there he is. He's just got to enable the video for the reveal. I'm gonna do a drum roll. Hey, what are you doing? That's fine. That's like beach hair. That's perfectly fine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Awesome.
but you're getting there.
You're getting there. I mean, you
Getting
got the curls have got to come out, man. You got to do like the long. I want the decade ago kind of a mirror.
Ah, you're Amir, you're on
Oh,
mute.
you're on mute, man. You got to get on there.
Yeah, give it another month.
All right. Yeah, I do want to
We
see
are in
it.
lockdown, so yeah.
Because all I'm going to do is have white streaks in my hair. It's going to look awful. I'm going to look like, yeah, it's not going to work. But yeah, okay, Amir. So tell us,
right.
what's your question in your situation?
Actually, my situation is I have this kind of a job interview where I want to facilitate a small workshop for someone, like 1 hour. Someone's going to interview me. It's going to be live. Is there a big difference there? Because, you know, between facilitating for a small group or facilitating for just one person. Any tips there? That's it.
Mehmet, you want to give this a shot?
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's. I mean, of course, there's a bigger difference between facilitating a group and a one person, because you need then to take care of the interaction between people, etc. So that's a bigger topic there. If you facilitate only for one person, then the question is, for example, would you like to use Mural or Miro in order to get to a to an ideation situation where you want to explore your partnership together? And for example, what I like to do is I like to use a partnership canvas, which actually helps exploring, okay, well, what do I think are your benefits out of such a situation, and what do you think are my benefits out of such a situation, and how can we then formulate or create together value for ourselves or for someone else. That could actually help if that is. It also depends on how pre-structured the interview is already. Yeah. If you're going into the interview like free fall, so you could do whatever you want, or is it an interview where the job is quite clear and it's just to understand if there's a fit or not?
Yeah, I'm not sure about the structure really. I was thinking that I would take it and do it freely. I'm not sure. I think I'm allowed to do that.
Yeah, I mean, if it, for example, fits also to the job, that is maybe something creative, or it goes into the situation or into the direction of facilitating also remotely, then of course it's a great plus also to showcase that in just that situation.
Yeah.
I'm just adding to what Mehmet is saying. I think it's an absolutely cool idea that you're taking the initiative to showcase something like this as part of an interview. I think super appreciative of this thought in the first place. I think the choice is probably between can you have a PowerPoint where you're trying to share some information, and at the same time, how engaging can you be, and how can you engage the other person? So it's a tricky question. If it's just one person, sometimes it might work, but I'm also tending to be more with Mehmet, where you can choose to have a pathway already built on a digital canvas like Miro or Mural, and take them through that. The advantage I feel is that instead of waiting for questions to come up or waiting for thoughts to come up, maybe your interviewer can actually leave some feedback in the form of post-it notes at every step. And you could even address that collectively, or at some point maybe have a checkpoint to say, hey, are we still on the same page? Are you getting everything? Do you want to share something? Do you have some questions? I think it becomes a lot more easier if you have some kind of a collaborative or a shared digital space there.
Also, yeah.
Cool idea. Like, totally go for it.
Maybe one point that is also the question is, okay, well, who is your counterpart, and do you know, or are you able to find out if that person is would be appreciating such a new situation for him or her? Yeah.
Then this is, just to clarify, this is a one-on-one interview, correct?
This is a one-on-one interview, yes.
Okay, and this is the first of potentially several, like they have you go through phases.
They will have me go through 4 phases, yeah.
Okay, so this first one is just basically kind of like a screening call or a screening interview.
Oh, no, this is not the screening call. This is the second interview.
Okay, got it. So so you pass the screen. Now you're basically, they're getting a little bit more interested in how long is it for?
The interview is 1 hour long, and they're basically going to give me a challenge and see my process in solving that.
Oh, in the session itself.
In the session itself, yes.
Okay.
They're going to give me a vague idea, and I'm going to have to go from that vague idea until to an outcome or an impact. Yeah.
And will you be bringing your own laptop so you can actually use a digital whiteboard and kind of work with that?
It's going to be virtual interview. Yeah.
Okay, got it. Okay, so yeah, yeah. I mean, all for it. If you preparing something like that and just kind of, I think that from my perspective, since I was a hiring manager before and was in that space, the one thing this is just me, so it may not be the person you're talking to, but the one thing I was always interested in is how someone approached their work, how somebody would kind of go and do problem solving, or just kind of like from your starting point, what was the idea, and you kind of verbalize that and kind of see what kind of approaches you had, what perspective it is. And I'm sure that'll come out in the interview, but that's something that I keyed on in terms of like, why would somebody kind of do this? And if you're also in a way evaluating the person you're talking to, so you're going to see if this person is actually paying attention to what you're doing. This is not just like a one-way street. You're trying to figure out if the person that you're talking to is like, you know, kind of answering some critical questions. You know, are they kind of reaffirming or understanding what you're doing? So as long as you're on point, and I think you are with what you're going to be doing, then that's the important thing.
Yeah, that's basically the plan. They didn't say that I should prepare anything, a mural board or anything. So I thought I'd take the initiative and guide them through my process through a mural board, you know?
Yeah, I think that's good. That's a good instinct, is to kind of do that. Just always have in your back pocket and have that kind of there, and say, okay, you know, if the talking and the conversation comes around to that, then you're set. Sandy, you have any thoughts?
Oh, I just thought it's such a great idea. I'm going to steal that if I'm going to one day, if I'm going to get an interview.
Well, actually, Sandy, can you help me? I need a couple of templates, if you don't mind.
Of course.
I was gonna, you know what, if this entire economy goes to hell, that's something where you can go like, hey, I'm Sandy Lamb. I'm a mural template designer, and I've had my work featured in the Global Virtual Design Sprint and other places. I have different dimensions of what I do, and I have other people. And I mean, that could be something where you don't necessarily have to, because Mural likes to share everything. This could be something where it's a custom build for a situation, and then you basically just use your design chops that way.
Yeah, that could be.
I can see
I can create
value
like
in
a
that.
library.
Yep. Just a thought. We're here to hear all up a mirror, but it was a side like, I gotta think about that one.
I think I'm gonna steal that idea and start working on it right now.
well, Amir, you have the added notion that you also have dev chops, and you also have, what's really good about you is you have a thorough perspective of the entire process lifecycle, and just don't think of just one dimension of it, which I've seen in your work. So hopefully that'll be something that's brought out in the interview when you do talk to them.
I hope so. And I see Sabrina offering to help. Thank you very much, Sabrina. I appreciate it. Yeah.
Maybe just for everyone listening, just to summarize 2 points. I think one thing that Mehmet suggested was, who's your participant? Know your participant, or know the people that you're working with in the session. And the second thing is to maybe keep in mind what's your plan B if some tech fails happen, or something doesn't work. Maybe some kind of a plan B that makes sure that and everything still works smoothly.
Yep. Cool. Well, Amir, did that help you?
Oh,
yes.
You're on mute again.
Oh, the cat muted everything. There you go. Wow, that's a big cat.
Sorry, my cat walked on my keyboard.
Your cat's going, hey, pay attention to me. Yeah.
All right. Thank you guys very much. I appreciate it. That was really helpful.
You're welcome.
Good luck,
nice seeing you, Amir.
Yeah,
good luck.
Good luck. Yeah.
They don't give you the job, they suck.
I agree.
Yeah.
Right. Mardea, I'm gonna bring you on as well. Do you want to just go on microphone, or would you want to join us on video? Madea, can you hear me? And Amir, do you want to stay on the panelist side, or do you want to drop off? It's up to you, either way.
I can drop off.
Okay.
If I have anything to say, I'll share it in the chat.
Okay, got it.
Thanks, guys.
No problem. Let's see.
Seems like she unmuted herself, but I don't hear her.
Yeah, I don't hear her either.
Can you hear me?
Hey, now I can hear you.
Yay.
Oh, hi.
Hi.
Hello.
Okay,
So-
I'm here licking the ice cream, but I have a question.
All right.
Okay, ice
So
cream
Amy-
melting or
Yeah, well, now we have to know what flavor ice cream.
Cookie dough.
All right,
Okay.
there you go.
And the question is, what flavor do you need? Do you
Oh.
want next?
No, I think the question is more, how might we?
Yeah.
How much we?
How
Oh
might
my
we
God.
elaborate on the flavor of cookie dough? No.
Mhm.
All right, Mardia, what's your situation? And tell us
So,
what you'd like to ask.
It's actually an idea I have or what I intend to do. So it's something that has to do with what he just said. What's his name again? The guy that just left.
Amir?
Amir.
Amir?
Yeah. So this is not like a one-on-one interview, but someone told me yesterday he has this big shop, but it doesn't have an online shop. So with this coronavirus and everything, he's thinking of, is it migrating or transforming? How do you say it? I don't know. But he's thinking of going online.
Mm-hmm.
So he said that to me. I was like, that could be a very good LDJ for him now to kind of show him. But this person, the question is, this person is not tech savvy person and the business is huge. So he wants to do online shopping. He wants to kind of go online. So how do I even, because if I have to tell him, oh, I have this process that can help you to see if it's worth doing or what, how, if I start showing him, okay, you can do it remotely online, I have this feeling that he's going to be quite intimidated. Like, no, I don't want to do that, so how do you actually convince him? Or I can't really show him one-on-one or social distancing, but I don't know which way. I'm thinking of the best possible way to show him what the workshop looks like in a very simple way, but not really too intimidating for him because he doesn't do all this internet thing apart from his smartphone. So I don't know.
Who'd like to take this one?
Does that make sense? I don't know. This ice cream
you
is good.
said,
Yeah.
You said you cannot have a one-on-one with him?
If I have a one-on-one with him and I'm telling him about how to innovate or how to kind of validate his idea, if I start showing him, oh, we can do it remotely, he might back out because he might feel too intimidated because of the way he is. So how do you show the person the process without, one, there's social distancing, fine, and you don't want to do this mirror process because you're just making it worse or making him not go online, because that was the scare. He was so scared to do online thing, but with this COVID thing, he started thinking, okay, I want to do online. So I'm not sure.
I've got an answer, but I'm going to hold off on mine. I want to hear from the panelists that we got on and see what it is, because I'll monopolize this conversation if I do. And the dog wants somebody to answer, obviously. So we got to have somebody say
We
something.
better get to it.
Yes, better hurry.
No, great question, Madea. I think this is something that I've noticed also, that it's very easy to go solution first, and some people get put off by that, or it's too much to digest at the same time. So in my opinion, I would actually start with a very human, a personal conversation to talk about, to have a why conversation. Why do you want to do this?
Okay.
So why do you want to convert from, although you might know the answer, it's better for him to validate that and come up with some answers and say, hey, why do I want to actually do this transition from offline to online? And to
Okay.
maybe do like what's called the 5 why process, where you keep asking whys again and again
Mm-hmm.
for every subsequent why, until you
Mm-hmm.
reach that bedrock, until you reach that root cause
Mm-hmm.
of understanding, okay, this is exactly why I want to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the first starting point, to start leaning more into the problem rather than the solution.
Okay.
And once you have a good understanding of what it is that the real problem is, why now, why do this maybe with you even, or why not do it by himself, once you explore all the dimensions of this why, I think your friend might be in a better place to receive the solution. So
Okay.
that's my 2 cents.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Mehmet, what are you thinking?
So I'm assuming that that anything tech related is a no-go, and we are only thinking about phone conversation, if at all. Is that correct, Maria?
Is in person already, but like talking to, so the next step is actually for me to tell him, because he just said it's like, I really want to do this.
Yeah.
So because I heard it first.
To do what? The idea, or to work to work digital?
To work digital, to move from in-person shop to have an online shop, you know.
Yes. Okay. So so I understand that, but he still remains reluctant towards working on Mural, and as per your understanding, Mural would be a no-go to him and would actually buy him away.
Honestly, if there was no COVID-19, I
Yeah.
think actually booking a day on a space and do the in-person workshop would have been very entertaining to the person. Like, it would
Yeah.
have just like, oh yes, I have to do it, I don't care what's coming out of it, you know. He would be very, 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 very excited.
Yeah. So I mean, the thing is, instead of using any tech, you could still do some kind of conversational ideation. And of course, I mean, there are tools out there like the empathy map, persona, value proposition canvas, and whatnot. But instead, using fancy names and using fancy tools and digital maps and whatever, you can just take those I would say information points, and formulate them as questions inside a conversation in order to lead him towards exploring what is possible and what is not. Yeah, does he have, online, for example, the same market, the same customers? How's the value proposition changing? How does the business model work? Who else does he need to make that happen? So that could all, go also in a conversation, and based on that, you only help him maybe to type it down or write it down, or you do it for him as some kind of interviewer and interviewee relationship.
Okay. Okay, like a consultation phase, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much.
So my perspective is, and I'm going to make some assumptions on the person you're talking to, so this is going to be probably not accurate. I get the sense that he is very much in the in the physical realm and not very much in the digital realm. It reminds me a lot of when my mother first tried to figure out Wi-Fi and was terrified that she was going to break something and not be able to watch her cable television. That's the feeling I get. And that's not a bad thing. That's just an unfamiliarity with things and not wanting to kind of dive into things. If you were to ease someone like that, of that disposition, into a digital realm of selling things, I'm big right now on both OKRs and prototyping, the combination of both. OKRs being you figure out what his objective is in whatever effort he's doing, but you time box it and you give it data. So you actually have to have numbers behind it, and you have to have a certain time frame that he wants to get it done. Sell 100 sugar boxes or boxes of sugar by the end of May, or something where you can tangibly point back to it to see if you are actually moving things in the right direction. Then the thing that kind of corresponds to this is XYZ hypothesis. So it's you speculate that some percentage of your target market is going to do this, like whatever it is. They're going to purchase something on Shopify, and you're going to set up an experiment, a very short experiment, to see if that hypothesis will actually play out and if that gets you closer to the objective that you worked on. That's a much shorter engagement, but it's also something that doesn't take a lot of time and effort. And
that's a lot, to be honest. I would do that.
Yeah, but that's a question. That's an example of dipping your toe into something and actually seeing if the desirability is there of the market that might propel him to kind of play in the space.
Yeah.
Just that would be my thought.
Yeah, very good. Thank you very much. Very good.
Okay. Sandy, any last words? I'm
trying to write it down as quick as possible. Oh, I can play this back again.
Okay, so continue enjoying your ice cream, Ardea.
All right, thank you so much.
Glad we could help.
Thank you so much.
It looks like Heather's been waiting patiently. Heather Stark. Hopefully they're related to the Stark family from Game of Thrones, but we can only wonder. I'm gonna bring you on to talk. Yeah, Tony Stark. There you go. It could be Iron Man and Game of Thrones all in the same thing. So we'll find out in a moment.
Great, suddenly becoming fashionable after all these years. But I'm not arguing. In fact, it isn't a relation, but you know.
So maybe before you answer your question, Heather, or maybe you can just do a slight introduction. I've been neglecting to ask people that. So, but give us an idea of who you are and what you do.
Okay, hi. I'm a user experience researcher, and I've just kind of been hustled into remote facilitation because I'm trying to push some stuff forward with the various teams that I'm working with. And I ran my first mural workshop last week, and it worked great. Now wanting to, now wanting to kind of level up and do more complicated things like design sprints, you know, involving like, you know, more stages and more people. And I really haven't much intuition around how to handle kind of breakouts. You know, if you've got a big bunch of people, if you're physically together, you might want to, like, you know, send off little working groups to do stuff and then reassemble. I was wondering what kind of, are there any, you know, methods, tricks, processes you use for trying to do that with the group, or is that something you wouldn't attempt? Just curious to get your feedback on what might work or whether or not to try it.
We'll do the order of magnitude like we've been doing before, and we'll start with Rakesh.
Okay. Zoom has a very simple breakout room feature, Heather. So I think that's the best thing you can do. And it's worked pretty well for me. The only thing that I'm missing there is that, so what you can do there is you can send people into multiple rooms, and you can also broadcast a message to them, but you can't visit the individual rooms. That's what I know for now. But there are other tools which do something similar. There's something called Sococo. I'll just type the link. .com. So they sort of replicate a physical room or an office with different seats. And I find that really cool. So you can actually move around. You visually see that people are sitting in different spaces, and you can have conversations when you do that. That's something that I really liked. And I think you can do something similar using Mural too. I've only tried it once, where you can have multiple, you can have links that send people to other canvases, so they can do something on a different canvas and come back to the master canvas. So that's another thing too.
Right. So you could have like an different audio channels set up. I trialed Remo several months ago, but not in anger, which has kind of a rooms functionality. But I haven't actually, got experience of, you know, trying to run the circus with that as an ingredient, you know.
And Sabrina saying, as a moderator in Zoom, you can hop from one room to another. So yeah, that really works. I think that's been my experience. The thing is that there's just way too many tools right now. So you just need to probably pick the simplest thing that suits your context and situation. So yeah, just go for what works there and try it out before you actually introduce
yeah,
it
in case it doesn't work.
yeah.
Thanks.
So just to add to that, of course, so for example, if people are not yet familiar with it and with the process and with working in a multi-team environment, then I would suggest to have multiple co-facilitators. If people are already aware of the process, they know how to behave, they have done it one time or several times already, then you might be, you might be sufficient as only one facilitator. But that is rather, that is with caution, I would say. Definitely to use several murals, because after some amount of people in one mural plus the number of items, it can become very slow. So having several murals together, that would be right. That would be good. And I would also be quite strict on timing, so that if after the breakout sessions people come together to work on something together, then of course it needs to be, the people need to be reminded quite frequently on the timing, so that they have that in mind and then come to an end and to a solution, for example, at the end of the session or at the end of the breakout session.
Does that help you? Does that help?
Okay. Thank you much.
Yeah. I actually like to do the whole thing in one mural board and link them, because you can actually set parts of the mural board, you can anchor link parts of the mural board. So each part of the mural will have a different link, and you can send them to the different breakout rooms. And that way you can easily group everything back together, and they can have like a central timer on mural. And the other thing I like to do, it depends if you can get co-facilitators for each breakout group. The chances that you probably won't. So you may have one co-facilitator, but you probably won't have like 4 or 5 different co-facilitator. What I like to do is I assign roles on each group inside the people. So I would say, now you are a group of 5, and who wants to be the co-facilitator? I probably won't name it as like a co-facilitator, but I would just say, hey, who can keep up of the time? Who can come back and then report to the bigger group what you have done, and who can do the note taking on mural. And that way everyone gets a task to do. And then by the end of the day, like, even though you are not in each, you're not with them the whole time, but you will have someone to report back to you. And then as the main facilitator, you will just jump to each group time to time and check to see how they're doing. What I also like to do, the benefits of having a big mural board, dividing into different groups, is that you can create like a giant sticky notes and communicate on mural as well without going actually in the Zoom room. So I would sometimes like create a sticky note on this group and say, hey, are you ready? How are you doing? And then someone can answer that way, and then so on and so forth. So yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Are we good, Heather?
Cool. Thank you much.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for thank you very much for the question. We have one more that we're going to close things out. This is from Diego Tonas. This is in the Q&A section of Zoom. He actually clusters 3 of them. They're kind of interconnected, but I think we can pick and choose. He asks, how is the best way to do onboardings with big teams? Introducing virtual working for people who had never been working like this before. And second, a lot of companies have security standards. How do you guys adapt in cases like this? Let's go in reverse. Let's go with Sandy first.
Hang on. So best way to onboard the team. So, well, I guess the best way is to use whatever tools they have in virtual collaboration. Miro has been really helpful, and they actually has passed a lot of security standard. Like even IBM's, they were okay with Miro. So they were showing me how the dashboard, the company dashboard work. By the way, that is going to be our next video about the cook-off. Miro and Miro, we are going to show the security levels, the different accounts and everything. So stay tuned.
So what you're referring to is a new series that you're doing with Andrei Kidarev over at Deep Work Studio, and that's come out. That's on YouTube. So maybe you can put that link in the chat, so if people want to see that, they can. It's a interesting series that both of you have embarked on, so that should get some eyeballs.
Yeah. So Miro has been pretty good in the security, and there's a lot of different settings. They even let you to bring in your own security key, so you can use your own instead of using theirs. So that way you can build that extra security level. But if Miro is not even a choice for the company, they just don't want to try it out or whatever reason, the easiest way is just to adopt whatever tools they have. That way you don't even need to spend too much time onboarding them. All this online collaboration, even though Miro or Miro will be very beneficial, but it's not actually required. You can do all this kind of remote workshops through Google Sheets, even Google Docs, like any kind of or like a Microsoft kind of documents. You can also do that. I even have a template that was shared with me doing everything on Excel. So sometimes that is actually even better, because it depends on the environment. It's like a corporate kind of setting. Many of these kind of companies, it's much easier to tell them to just write down 1, 2, 3 in Excel than telling them to write a sticky note on Miro. So really depends on your situation, but my suggestion would be just try to adopt whatever they have. Next.
Pass the bar, you got to throw it to somebody else.
Sure, Mehmet.
Yeah. Regarding the security standards, that really depends. I mean, if they, as mentioned by Sandy, if they already have something in place, then just go with that, I would say. And if they search for a new tool, then the question, okay, what kind of level of security standards do they ask for? Yeah, and in most cases, as far as my experience has been, and also from the others, Miro seems to work. That should be, I guess, fine. The private instance, that is still something in discussion, but Miro is already also working on that, as far as I know. The second question was how to best onboard big teams into what exactly? Is it Miro or is it something else?
Doesn't say. It just basically introducing virtual working for people who have never been working like this before. So maybe that goes into understanding the framework or the kind of virtual space or the remote space when they're kind of foreign to it. I think that's the context of the question. Yeah.
Then I would maybe start also with a couple of online trainings, maybe upfront, or a session where they get familiarized with some basic concepts on, okay, well, right now we are doubling, or we are creating right now post-its, or we can use a couple of other items where they just get the basics first done, and then based on that you can then start collaborating team-wide. It also depends on how often you want or need to do it. If it's only a one time, then you can do it during the session, during the ideation session, or whatever you need to have it for. If you already know you will have at least 10, 20, 30 sessions or even more, or this is virtual the way to go, then of course maybe initial familiarization sessions might make more sense.
Amir made a note here that most companies also have access to Gmail Suite or Microsoft Suite of apps, and they both have virtual whiteboard apps in both of those.
Yeah, cool.
Rakesh, your thoughts?
I think this is a great question, Tiago. I see this in the context of, I would approach this probably the same way I would do it in the live context. If you have a large group of people, for me, without knowing all the details and the whole scenario, it makes sense for me to start with early adopters. So just find out who are these people who are probably more interested, who could be, fans of some, who could be fans of tech, or who could be fans of virtual working. Maybe some of them have even done some stuff before. So my idea would be to get them first onboarded and see if they can spread the message. Then it sort of becomes more safe and easier of a way of doing it. The whole load is not on your shoulders completely, but it's more about distributing it and making sure that the word is spread among the group organically. And you can sort of be the backbone, communicating, answering key questions, or repeating certain key concepts that need to be repeated, and reinforcing the message, maybe. So I think this is my approach. This is what I would do. And by the way, Sabrina, it's Amazon Basics mic. Nothing fancy there. It just looks fancy.
You know what it looks like? It's like a high school mic that the principal calls up to, and he's going to tell
Oh,
you,
really?
like, good morning, everybody. It's a nice Wednesday morning here at the elementary high. Just want to let everyone know we have a fire drill coming up today. So if you could please listen to your teachers and let them know where you are at all times. Also, please stop stealing food from the cafeteria. We really appreciate how hungry you are, but we need order, and we also need the money, so please don't take any more stuff. Yeah,
that's a good one. I just bought it because
it work. It just basically it's on the. I'll be the last person to answer, and I'll answers. So these are going to be counterintuitive. Off with security. You want to just install an insane, like, have an amazing experience for everyone concerned. All those, because you need to experiment and figure out. And again, this is bad advice. Don't take this.
So you also install Snapcam.
Zoom, because we had a problem. I was going to be if you do have a dimension of the conversation that teams a sarcasm, so that basically you can show people at all times during the day, so you can get them used to virtual living as well as virtual working, so you could have both but again, if you want people to feel more comfortable 24/7, including sleeping, so that your story can go through. So don't listen to anything I just said. Experts, Rakesh, Mehmet, they have far better advice than I could ever give. Don't ever listen to me ever again. At times, so I don't want to go any further. Thank you, everybody who was part of this over on he had been kind of commenting over there, so appreciate you both very much for attending and kind of give me your perspective, the personality of this entire thing. Without you, any last things we want to, that both of you have kind of curated?
Mehmet, I think we said, and we'll share it with you. So 10 tips that we spoke, one pager, and hopefully that helps you guys. And if you have any other questions, please reach out to Mehmet, me, Robert, or Sandy. Shout out to Robert for doing this, is coming up. It's the next flavor starting very events happening already. So if you have,
that is when it closes down. Ain't people in. I'm going to be doing some promotions all next week. So yeah, thanks for the mention, Rakesh. And by the way, there should be something very interesting coming out with GVDS and the Life Sprint. Wonder what's going to happen there. We got to wait for that to come out too.